Good morning and welcome from me. It's not an Apple advert, just I was having too much fun last night on a boat and I forgot to print my notes, so I'm trying to work from the iPad, but hopefully I don't need too many notes. This is a subject, the ISI, the Inter-System Interface, that's been pretty well rehearsed over a number of years now of the availability of most of the other features and facilities that were originally standardized in ETSI for TETRA, and I think for many of you, many of us, it's been a subject of some frustration that part of what the selling point of many of these national networks that are out there already was, yes guys, and we'll be able to have cross-border communications and we won't just have to stand on the border and work within the radio coverage of our own network. Everything will be fine. Unfortunately, not quite so. Today we're really reprising something that we did in a very similar format this time last year in Singapore, when we posed the question, what is this ISI going to be? Perhaps more importantly, when will it be? And finally, but not least, how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay? So I'm delighted today to have most of my interviewees from last year, but with the delightful addition of Etienne. And I'm just hoping that Etienne hasn't stolen all of his thunder and that there's something else that he can tell us in this next session. But so we'll move directly on, and if you allow me to first turn to Stefan Cavernes from the Rakel network in Sweden. And last year, Stefan told us that there was a brand new initiative between his network and the BOSS network in Germany to create an inter-system interface. So, Stefan, I'm wondering what's happened in the last year and what can you tell us?
Thank you, Tony, for the introduction. First, also a correction. I was saying to Etienne, he has to update his picture. Sweden finalized the rollout for a nationwide system in December last year, so it should be dark blue, if not the light color anymore. But now into the ISI business then. We had a trial during November, one day in November last year, between the BOSS network and the Rakel network. It was a success. It was quite easy to connect two Casidian systems together. We don't have a land border towards Germany, so we had an operational scenario taking place on the sea between Germany and Sweden, and it is really two parts in this trial that I have to summarize now in very short wording. One is the technical part, and the other is the user part, and also the methods that the user are using when they are trying to communicate cross-border. First, the technical part. Once again, it was two Casidian systems connected, so it was not a big challenge. It was more or less to upgrade the software to the same level, to connect the system with transmissions, and also to make things work accordingly to the scenario, the operational scenario that we planned for. And once again, it was a success. The coverage over the sea area was good, and everybody was very happy with the result. So it was a real success about the technology part. Then if you look at the user part, we had the Swedish Coast Guard, who is responsible for the coast, and we had their counterpart in Germany, the border police, and the operational scenario took place between the Coast Guard and the border police. And we had a refugee situation on the Baltic Sea, and they exchanged information, and it was running quite good. And the result from that was summarized also in meeting after the trial. And one of the major items is how do the user work together. So it's not a technology thing only, it's more about how do you really communicate between two countries. So that is a bigger issue actually today, how to communicate, which language do you use, how do you set up the talk groups, and who is in command of the scenario and so on. So to summarize everything, it was a good trial, and it was a success. The user was very happy with the trial, and we also had visitors from Denmark, and the Swedish police was also attending the trial. So it was a good trial, and the user was happy with the trial. So
super.
Yeah.
But I mean, for example, as you said, that's same system interface. Do you have any feeling for what might be the next stage in terms of different system interface?
I do think I have a feeling, because we had a meeting yesterday between the BOSS project and the Swedish nationwide system that I represent, and also the Norwegian system that is starting to roll out the nationwide system, hopefully from this summer, and will end the rollout in 2015. And as a part of the Norwegian deal, the director, Tor Helge Lyngstol, has an ISI solution. And as long as I have it in my contract, I'm very happy when Tor Helge approached me and say, okay, can we now start a real work with an ISI or a similar solution called cross-border communication solution? For me, it's not necessary to call it an ISI as long as the user will be happy with the functionality. So it doesn't really matter of the name of this functionality, or if it will be a gateway or something. And we also had Cassidian and Motorola present in this meeting yesterday afternoon. So now we have at least we have a common picture of what we have to do, and I hope that we will start a real cross-border communication ISI project during this autumn.
Yeah. So, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's firstly a delightful piece of news that we have already demonstrated an same system interface, and now there are plans and discussions and interpersonal interfaces in place to at least try to develop something between companies. So excellent news, and thank you very much for that. Next, I'd like to turn to Mladen Vetronic from the Serbian Republic, who first and foremost, perhaps we should congratulate very much on yesterday's delightful news of the apprehension of an alleged war criminal from across the border from your own country, Mladen. So very many congratulations on that. It only took 16 years, and that's almost as long as it seems to be taking to get the ISI. So, but excellent news, and perhaps a good introduction to what I think you described to us last year as criminals sans frontières in the former Bosnian region. So, Mladen, how do you see the work that's going on with ISI, and perhaps as importantly, how is that going to help you to control this criminal sans frontières situation that you have to deal with?
Thank you, Tony. This works. Thank you first for congratulations. I think this, since we work together in Western Balkans in our telecommunications committee and we cooperate very well, this expresses also and contributes to our commitment to improve cooperation in our troubled region, you know. And what I wanted to say is that I'm lucky that in this room today there is nobody who was making decision or holding the money when we were purchasing our TETRA network 7 years ago. Otherwise, I would have been sacked, you know, because now I have to tell that I was not telling the whole truth to the people. I was talking about harmonized technologies, harmonized frequency bands, European standardized solution. All over Europe used the system, you know, and then I was also pointing out the ultimate solution for cross-border cooperation, which appeared so far not to be true. And we, as you know, in Western Balkans, since you already mentioned Criminals Sans Frontières, we have a very strong need to cooperate, to work together. Why is that? Maybe I like this quote of former American President Harry Truman, who once told, we shall never be able to remove suspicion and fear as potential causes of war until communication is permitted to flow free and open across international boundaries.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So this is something really which pertains to our region where we live. You know, because after the breakup of Yugoslavia, we created more than 5,000 kilometers of new borders, and we need to cooperate over these borders. And in order to cooperate, we need to communicate. In order to communicate, we need to be interoperable. And now I will add on Stefan's words regarding different levels of interoperability and what is easier to obtain and what is even more difficult to obtain. You know, ETSI also supports this definition. You have technical interoperability, then you have syntactical interoperability, which is data formats, coding of voice and so and so. Then you move more to the human world, then you have semantic interoperability, which is the language we speak or other things. And then on top of it, you have organizational interoperability, which is, can we really understand each other on what are we doing, what are we talking? And normally, starting from technical interoperability, you first have to fulfill this level and then go further up. And I think in Western Balkans, we have the opposite situation. We have the organizational interoperability because most of our public safety organizations have the same background and the same way of working things, so we understand each other very well.
Yeah.
Linguistic problem, with the exception of Albanian language, almost doesn't exist because we speak the same or similar languages, we understand each other perfectly. Regarding voice coding data formats, that's already resolved in TETRA standard, and what is missing? The missing link are actually three E1 links and some software as far as I'm familiar with standard, but that's still, we don't have. And what we have to do, we of course use different interim interfaces because we organize from time to time some coordinated actions. We had some action on Bosnian border, our in fighting organized crime. Then we had some actions of border police between Macedonia and Serbia. And we used all kinds of interim solutions, which already mentioned by Etienne, like back-to-back radios. But this is also only limited to a border area and a place where there is a coverage for both networks. We also joined the European Initiative for DMO, Euro DMO, so we programmed our radios, we used Euro DMO repeaters, but this is just like you have a Mercedes and you drive your Mercedes on country road, you know, so we all have very sophisticated communication means, and the capabilities we don't use.
The rest of the infrastructure doesn't support.
Doesn't support it, that's the problem. Yeah. And how we see the solution. You know that we have that, our telecommunications committee, we see regularly each other, we work in three directions. One is to provide some short-term solutions to obtain communication cross-border, like putting telephone lines, printing manuals, books, and other things. Actually, the legal basis for our work is Police Cooperation Convention for Southeast Europe, so-called Vienna Convention. And there is one Article 24 in this convention, which is exactly the same as Article 44 of original Schengen Convention, which I have no doubt most of the audience is aware of this article, which was basis for everything. And then another thing we do is to help and support each other to promote standardized, interoperable technical means, so in order to connect each other and in order to be connected with Europe once when we become the part of European Union. And third thing, the third direction is getting in touch with European initiatives and taking best practice and know-how to our countries. So beside this interim interface, well, how we see the possible solution? First, we believe that we should not insist on inter-system interface, which will enable all of us to roam everywhere and to use all the features of the one network in another network, complete transparency of features. We see it as a solution for cross-border and over-border communication, which supports some basic voice services, which supports a limited number of users, but which is available instantaneously and which is reliable, and we have it when we need it immediately. This is how we see the solution.
Yeah.
So we are realistic, I think.
Super.
And of course we support the initiatives of European Union to have some funding from European Union. Unfortunately, the time frame is a little bit extended. Stefan told us some good news regarding that maybe that companies are doing something.
Yeah.
And also I believe that also some third parties, some companies, independent companies, small software and hardware independent companies should be encouraged to develop some more or less sophisticated solutions to help us overcome this period until we have the full ISI, because they can do a little bit to pave a little bit that country road I mentioned in the beginning. You know.
Yeah.
So the message from Western Balkan is we need ISI. We are realistic in our requirements, and we support all the initiatives of the European Union. And the fourth thing, we have no money to pay development because our economies cannot be compared with economies of
Exactly,
the
yeah.
developed European countries.
So also, I think good news and positive input that you're being realistic, but you really have a burning user drive to develop this thing. If I move finally now, but by no means least, to Etienne, as I said, I hope you didn't steal all of your thunder previously and you have something else to tell us. If perhaps I can try to catalyze that. I mean, some of us in the TETRA community are so old and so tired with all of this that we've seen, for example, the three-country pilot. And you're from Belgium, so that three-country pilot so many years ago, that was Belgium, Holland, and or the Netherlands and Germany. My question really was, in all of this interaction with the EU to try to generate projects and funding, is there any reference back to how long ago that initial three-country pilot was and how much or how little has happened in between?
Yes, we are indeed always making reference to this test, because a lot of work has been already done during these tests, especially on the functional level. Let's say that a general framework, communication framework, has been established in 2003 during the real carrying out of this test. And this model is always valid today. And of course, in our works, if we win this call, we will assume and take over all the stuff that has been done 8 years ago. Surely.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, ladies and gentlemen, just to summarize then on your behalf, I think some positive feedback here and good information, and perhaps it's our ticket to come to Dubai next year to tell you even more. But on their behalf, I would like you to thank the panelists very much and wish you an enjoyable rest of TETRA World Congress. Thank you very much.